Ionic compounds, multivalent metals. So this is for writing the formulas. So if you have the names. So you write the symbol for the ions, the metal comes first. Determine the charge on the ions. So the Roman numerals will indicate the charge on the metal, and the non-metal charge you can get from the periodic table. Determine the subscripts for the formula. Use either the crisscross, cross and drop method or the zero-sum method. It's up to you which one you use. So if you use the crisscross and drop method, you're going to write out the symbols, putting the charges above. Cross and drop the numbers from the charge. Reduce to the lowest whole number ratio if necessary. This is only required in this method. It'll work itself out for the zero sum. So we're going to do a couple of examples. So iron 2 chloride. So we've got Fe, we've got chlorine. Chlorine has a charge of 1 negative. Iron has a charge of 2 positive because the charge is indicated by the Roman numeral 2. And then you cross and you drop. So the formula becomes Fe1 Cl2, and you don't have to write the 1. This does not need to be reduced. It's already reduced as far as it can go. Copper 1 oxide. So we've got copper with a 1 plus. That's what the 1 in Roman numerals indicates. We've got oxygen. It has a charge of -2. Cross and drop only the numbers, not the charges. And you get your subscripts. So it's the 2 now goes with the copper, and the 1 goes with the oxygen, but we don't need to write our 1s. Lead 4 sulfide. So Pb is lead, and it's 4 plus. Sulfur is 2 negative. So we're going to do cross and drop on those charges. So now we've got a Pb with a subscript 2 and an S with a subscript 4. I'm rewriting it so that you can see what I'm doing. But if you can reduce this right away to the next step, go right ahead. So 2 and 4 can be reduced because they can both be divided by 2. So this would be Pb1 S2. So lead has a subscript of 1, but of course we don't need to write our 1s. Fe is iron. 2 is the charge. Oxygen has a charge of -2. So what happens here is if you have the same numbers, they will end up canceling out, and you will have just the element symbols. And I'll show you why. Just cross and drop. So you get Fe2O2. You can reduce that. You can divide both symbols, both subscripts by 2. So it's FeO. So when you have the exact same charges, positive and negative, you reduce it just to the element symbols. All the numbers cancel. But that's only if they have the exact same number. And this is, of course, only for ionic compounds. You do not reduce covalent formulas ever. Using the zero-sum rule. Write out the symbols for the elements and write the charges below them. Determine the number to multiply each charge by so that you get the same total positive and negative charges. And then the multiplier becomes your subscripts. So iron 2 chloride. So iron has a charge of 2 plus. Chlorine from the periodic table has a charge of 1 negative. Now, I can bring chlorine up to 2 negative by multiplying by 2. And now the total positive is +2. The total negative is -2. So I'm finished. And that multiplier becomes my subscript for that element. So this becomes FeCl2. Copper 1 oxide. So copper and oxygen. Copper is +1. Oxygen is -2. I can bring up the +1 to a +2 by multiplying by 2. So now I've got 2 plus and 2 negative. This multiplier becomes the subscript. So it's Cu2O. Lead 4 sulfide. So Pb, let me just move this up. Pb is 4 plus and sulfur is 2 negative. So I can bring up that -2 to -4 by multiplying by 2. So that multiplier applies to that element. So my formula is PbS2. Iron 2 oxide. Iron and oxygen. Iron's +2 because of the Roman numerals. Oxygen is -2. So these two numbers add up to 0, so I don't have to do any changes. So my formula is FeO. Let's do an example where it's a little bit complicated. Let's do F, F, E. Okay, so iron 3 oxide. Sorry, I had to think about that one. Switch gears in my brain. So we've got oxygen and iron. The iron has a charge of 3 plus because of the Roman numerals. Oxygen has a charge of -2. I can't bring up 2 to 3 using a whole number, so I have to multiply both of them. So you find a number that they both go into, and that's always an easy one with multiplying the two numbers together. So 3 and 2 multiply to give me 6. So if I multiply 3 plus by 2, I will get 6 plus. And if I multiply the -2 by 3, I will get 6 negative. 6 plus, 6 negative gives me a 0. So the multiplier becomes the subscripts. So this is Fe2O3. And this is why I love the zero sum rule. There you go.